This is about my Brightspeed nightmare. This is a special edition. I had to do this because I have been really stressed. I have had no phone, and they don't understand this is a business. So let's go back about, say, 5 years ago. What happens with my phone lines, because of it being copper, is squirrels eat it. Every other month it gets eaten by a squirrel. So one of the technicians that was repairing it back 5 years ago had said that they were coming out with fiber optic lines to replace all the copper lines. So I'm thinking, wow, that's going to be great. I can't wait for that to happen. Okay, so when they came out with the fiber optic lines, I thought I was getting my phones changed to fiber optic lines. This has been a year ago, and it was just an internet line. He said, I'm not doing the phones. I'm not doing the phones. And I said, okay. But the internet was good, and, I have no complaints about that. I just didn't comprehend everything that was going on. I've been paying for service I don't even use, Centrex, and tons of numbers on here that I used 10 years ago. I've been paying $356 plus per month just for that. And I thought, well, maybe this is going to lower that because apparently, the internet will be on another. Okay, so $151.61 is what I pay for the internet. Combined, that's over $500 of useless stuff that, I've had, and I could never get them to take it off. Even the DSL, which I don't use, I try to explain to them. They say, oh, we can't do that. I don't have a rollover line. I have one number that people call, and I kept trying to explain that, but nobody would listen. So June 23rd, I believe it was, our line went down because a squirrel had eaten through it. So whenever I was talking to the people, they said, well, maybe you should go to fiber optic. They never eat through the fiber optic lines. And I said, this is true. Let's do it now. I've always been scared because I didn't want anything messing up my phones. So I thought that this was an actual phone line, that was fiber optic, that would just come to that phone. And when the guy got here, he came out like 2 days later after I had talked to the one guy. But also, too, the guy said that he would send an adapter and these other things that I would need for my phone. And I thought, well, let's hope it works. And so the guy came out here and he said, well, you already have fiber optic. And I said, yes, that I did. And then I said, but, this is going to another part of the building. And I was assuming this was a phone line. I told him, I said, we need to run it from where the phone line was, replace that copper, and just, follow it to my phone. And so I never heard back from that guy. And, I called to find out what was going on. And, of course, you go through 5 or 6 people, and nobody really knows what's going on. They finally gave me the number to a special representative that could help me. So I called her, and she, was going to get everything taken care of. She got my bill taken care of, I think. I've got all that off. And I won't have to pay over $500 a month again. I don't know, because I haven't received a bill on that yet. So in July 9th, a guy came out here, and the technician, and he was going to, he said he was going to put in the internet over here. And I said, well, I don't need internet. I've got internet already. I just need a phone. Just a phone. And he said he couldn't reach me. I checked the phone wasn't working at that time. Well, he said what happens with that is if I change an order on anything, that has to be undone, and then it goes all through the rigmarole again. So I called up the girl after I realized my phone wasn't working. I said, apparently a squirrel's bit through. I don't know, if you could send somebody out here to patch that line. And, she, oh yeah, we'll get it taken care of. And I said, well, he said too that it sounded like it could have been disconnected. She said, no, it wasn't disconnected. We just have it, I took that off, but it wasn't disconnected or anything. On the phone, this was July 9th. And so I waited. She said, I'll call you back, let you know, what all's happening. Never called. She never called back. And somebody he had talked to, the technician had talked to, he said, I'm going to give them your cell number. And is that okay so that they can call you? I said, sure, that's fine. They never called either. So we are at July 19th now, just so you'll know. I have gone without no phones because it was disconnected. Wednesday, I can't remember the exact date, but this is July 19th. I called them and they said, well, that account isn't working anymore. They have you transferred over to a new account. And it was like, okay, well, let's get this, straightened up. I had called the other girl back and just left messages, basically. And then whenever I did get a hold of her at one point, she had said that, acted like, well, they didn't come and run a line because you don't need a line, and I'll just send you an adapter. And I said, well, I thought they were going to run something over to this phone. I don't understand this kind of stuff because my business is metaphysical stuff and retail. I understand all that, but I don't understand running wires or what this wire is for, what that wire is for. So when I called them back Wednesday, I had to talk to like 4 different people. The one girl said, well, it's going to take 2 days to get it migrated back over to copper. And I said, okay, fine. She said, I'm going to get you with somebody else, a specialist, to help you get everything done. I'd already gone through everything with her, talked, to her about everything. And the second person that answered acted like they didn't know what I was talking about, so I had to go through the whole thing again. Then she put me with somebody else. They acted like they didn't know what I was talking about, so I had to go through the whole thing again. And it's just been a total stressful nightmare. Hopefully these lines, these phones will come back on. I hate to take away everything and then go to another company because the same thing could happen. It's just been very stressful. What gets me through stress, though, is knowing this is just a minute little incident in the whole world of people and what they have that's so stressful on their plate, So I try to look at that and know this is going to pass, this too will pass, and just hope that everything goes the way it's supposed to be. I'm sorry to my customers who have not been able to get through to me for 2 weeks. I'm hoping that the 2 days meant 5 days maybe. I don't know exactly. But every time you call back to the company, they change over to something else. So right now I'm leaving it alone, though I did call the one and left a message and told them that I was going to do a YouTube video on the Brightspeed nightmare that I have just been through. So that's one reason why I'm doing it. Another reason to apologize to all my customers who haven't been able to get through, and part of my stress relief to get rid of this. And that's it for our special edition of the Brightspeed Nightmare. And our next show, we're going back to herbs, and it's going to be on marjoram.